Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be working on making the doll's dress. There will be a pattern for the 18-inch dolls on the pattern. It'll be at the bottom of this video. If you go underneath into the description box, you will find all of the pattern pieces free in there. So what we've got our bodice, we've got our back of our bodice, and we've got a sleeve. These are just bits and pieces which I have from my actual patterns. And then we have this long skirt piece, and yours will have a piece here. I don't know how I managed it, but you've got your piece of your placket which is attached like that, so it look like that sort of thing. There, okay, so that's that, it's there. So what you need to do is you need to cut out two bodices like this. You need to cut 4 of these back pieces like that, and you need to cut 2 of your sleeves. If you are cutting these out in a fabric which has got a pattern on it, you need to cut 2 this side and you need to cut 2 that side, otherwise it won't work. If it's just plain fabric, you can cut them all the same way. Okay, and then you'll have this big long skirt piece, and what you need to do with your long skirt piece is you're going to need to fold it into half like that. Okay, and you're going to cut one piece which is on the fold. So this will be on the fold here. Let me just draw that on so you can see. So you'll have this piece on the fold like that, there and there. Okay, and this is just for this one. If you're going to make a different dress, you can cut it all as 2 long pieces on the fold. But for this one, you just want to do this because this piece is going to be for the front of your skirt. So you have, that'll be just cut 1 on the fold. I'll write that down, 1 on fold. And then you'll turn it over, and I know mine's a bit shorter, but that it's okay. But just to show you that you'll have this piece here, with your placket on there, and you'll cut 2 of those separately, and that will make it so that you can have your ruffles tucking into the side here out of the way, and you won't see them, otherwise you'll be able to see your ruffles. So that's what you need to do. Okay, so I've done that with mine, it's here. So I've got 2 pieces, I've got the big long piece, and I've got 2 shorter pieces. Okay, like that. And all I've done then is I've done a little bit of ironing. So I've ironed up my skirt. I've ironed 1/4 inch, an inch, and then I've ironed another 1/4 inch and turned that one up. I've done the same on the back of the skirt. I've ironed it 1/4 inch, and then I've done it another 1/4 inch and turned that one up. I've turned that one up, and then I've come in on the placket and I've ironed it 1/4 inch and then another 1/4 inch. So that's all ironed up and done. I've just cut out my 2 back pieces like so, and then I've got my 2, so you've got 4 pieces of back you need like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you need 2 pieces of bodice like this. So those are all done. And then I did my arms, and I've just folded them over 1/4 inch, and then folded them over 1/4 inch and ironed them, both of those arms. And then I've taken my, this is for my ruffles, okay, to go around the back. So I've made all of my ruffles up here, and what I've done is I folded 1 piece down. Let's see, grab it here. Which one is it? There we go. So I folded this piece down. So I folded this side down 1/4 inch, and then folded it down 1/4 inch again, like so. But on this side, I folded it down 1/4 inch, and then I came back and I tucked that under, so you've just got an 1/8 inch on that side. Okay. So I've done that to all of my ruffles. And what I'm going to come and do now is just join them together the ones to go around the bottom of my skirt, and I think there's 4 of those, and then we have 2, no, I think it's 3, is there? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, I think there's 3 of those for the bottom of my skirt, and 2 for the other, and 2 separate ones which go on the back. So I'm just going to join these up, and then I'm just going to literally just machine straight across there and straight across there on those, and the other 2 we'll just leave loose like that. Okay, and then what we will do is we will come across and we will do a lot of our stitching. So we're going to come across then, and we're going to stitch on the 1/8 of an inch piece. We'll stitch on that one first, and we'll go all the way along all those 1/8 of an inch on the bottom of the ruffles, and we'll stitch across the bottom of the arms like that, on both the arms. And I'm making shorter arms because somebody suggested that they thought a shorter arm would be better, so I thought we'd try it on the dolls and see what it looks like. And then I've just come here on this placket bit, and I'm doing that, just coming on that one there like that, and just doing a straight stitch there on both of those pieces of the placket. But we're going to just leave the hem for now, and we'll do that later on. So let's go to the sewing machine now and start stitching these together. Okay, so I have put my 1/4 inch foot on because I prefer to do it, use the 1/4 inch foot when I'm doing dolls clothes. All the dolls clothes patterns will be sewn with a 1/4 of an inch seam, so that's why I'm using the 1/4 inch foot. And I'm going to make sure it's touching right at the very edge. You do not need to use a 1/4 inch foot. If you take your other foot and to measure it, usually you can find a place on there which is about 1/4 of an inch, and if I go onto mine and it's about there, I know that that's going to be a 1/4 of an inch. So I will make sure that the edge of my fabric would go and sit there like that, and I could see that was my 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so you can just do that, or you can put a little, get a permanent marker, a fine line one, and put a mark on it, or whatever you like. They aren't that dear. This is just a generic one which fits onto a Singer's, and I got that from Amazon, so if you'd wanted one of those, then you can do that. Come on a couple of stitches and then go back, and then go all the way across. Oops, sorry, it's caught. Things not working. Yeah, let me just check. I might not have my feed dogs correct because I was working on a buttonhole. No, they are working. That's fine. I was working on a buttonhole, and I had to disable my feed dogs, and then they wouldn't go back. It's like, oh no, what have I done now? So anyway, I've managed to sort it, so it was all right. So we're just coming over and doing those 2 pieces, joining that long one. You might find that you have enough fabric to do the long one at the bottom, and the cutting instructions for that are on the pattern, but I didn't have enough of the fabric left, so I'm just using what I've got. There we go. I'll just finish that little back stitch. Right, so now we're going to come around and we're going to stitch on that 1/8 of an inch all the way around the bottom. So find the 1/8 of an inch piece. Here it is. So it's just in there, and it's just a very tiny little hem for this ruffle, because we don't want a massive ruffle on the doll's dress, because we've got to try and keep it in proportion with what we want. So we're just coming in at that 1/8 of an inch, and very carefully just coming in and going around. You can see that's gone down in the hole there. That's better, that's better. Try and get your fabric to sit under that first bit of the foot, because you can always do a back stitch, and that'll stop it from going down that hole a little bit. Okay, and then come along. Oh, I have gone down that hole again. Let's try now. Played up ever since I did that with that button. It wouldn't go back. It's quite an old machine. But then again, I think sewing machines should last a long time. It has been repaired twice, and I've worked on it twice. But you know, it's still going all right. It's not too bad, so I'm just going to keep going. here, keep going along. Just tuck that right in under. Just a minute. Sorry, that was my husband just popped in to tell me that my grandson is in A&E. He's had a really bad asthma attack, which is really upsetting. And I don't know how it is where you are living, but here nobody's allowed to go into the hospital still because of COVID. You're only allowed one person in with a child. They're still really, really strict on it, so you can't even go and sit up with them in A&E, so that's a bit worrying. But just one of my grandsons had a milk allergy when he was born, and he was like anaphylactic, and he started having, like, had anything with milk in it, he would, oh, it was really, really bad. But he's also got asthma, which we obviously think probably is something connected maybe to the dairy. And I was watching this program on the TV the other day, and it actually said that everybody in this country was at one point, when they've gone back and done DNA tests on all the ancient bones and things, they found that everybody in this country was lactose intolerant, and they think that's why there's so many children nowadays actually have it, because it's a retro thing coming out. I thought that was very interesting, because we were very concerned in the beginning that why he should have that when nobody else in the family has asthma. And it might be the thing with our illness which we got, which is we have a hereditary illness as well. But that's nothing to do with milk. And we only found out about 2 years ago. They've been telling me I'd had all these other things wrong with me. And then suddenly my daughter got this illness, which we've all got, and suddenly, oh, you've got that, oh, your mum's got that, oh yeah, the whole family have got this hereditary illness. And it's like, oh great. So I'm in a wheelchair, and my daughter's in a wheelchair. I can probably do about an hour a day, if that. So quite often when you're watching the videos, you'll see that I've got one outfit on when I'm doing a bit of video, and then like after 10 minutes I've got another outfit on. It's like that. So I only do a very short time of videos, and you can see that when things just stop. So that was the placket on the side of the skirt. So this will be the back of the skirt. So I'm going to lift that off, put the other placket on. Yeah. I usually would run those together, but I think I put it in the wrong way. So let's just do that one. Do back stitch. Yeah, so we're just going to have to wait by the phone now to find out what's going on. It's a shame, because they'd all booked up to go to Pennywell Farm tomorrow, which is a lovely little farm which is near us, which you can have a lovely outing at. Okay, so I'm coming on now to do the bottom of the sleeve. To back stitch. And all the way along. Go and take this apart and give it another clean out. Might need to change my needle as well, because I've done quite a bit with my sewing for this whole project, so it probably needs changing. But you'll find that, and it starts making a funny noise, or things start to sort of buckle up there by the needle. You'll find that that might well be because your needle is getting too blunt to go through nicely, and you'll need a new needle on. And then I've got the 2 single pieces of ruffle, which are the 2 higher pieces of ruffle. So let's pull this one out a bit. Get this one in. I like to just sit it just on, so it's just on it. And again, we're just doing the 1/8 of an inch side for a moment, and then do the back stitch, and then go all the way on to the end. And it's quite fiddly with this 1/8 of an inch side, but for dolls you do need it much smaller. There we go. Keep going. It's popping out here. Because we don't want a massive ruffle. Oops, that's come out there. Let's put it back. And you can see that's come out there. What I'll do is I'll quickly unpick that. Whilst we're still here, just go back a couple of stitches and put that back under. So there we go. Turn that under. So if that happens, just go back, turn it back under again, and carry on. Okay. Back stitch. Okay, and we just carry on. You want to keep it under if you can, because you don't really want a raw edge showing if you can help it. Because then you get all the bits and ends coming out and all that sort of thing. Which doesn't look all that nice, really. That one, and do the last one. Is that right underneath there? Back stitch, and then forward again. That's it, there you go. Just keep it. Just rolling it under, because I think it's quite hard to, even though it's been ironed, it's hard to get it to stay down. So if you notice, I'm just giving it that little roll over. Sorry, I'm having to put 2 hands on it. I know that's the only way I can get it to go underneath. Okay, so that's all the hem done for those bits at the moment. So let's take those out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come along and we're going to put in our gathering stitches. So let's just get rid of both my arms and separate this one. So all I'm going to do is we've got this bigger piece turned under like that, and it should sit just about there. On there like that, and we're just going to come in and we're going to do 2 rows of gathering, and this is going to be very close together, so I'm going to have to be quite careful with it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my gathering stitch over to my gathering stitch, and it's up here on number 7 for mine. It'll be whatever it is on your machine. To do the biggest stitch you have will be your gathering stitch. I'm not sure whether to turn this over 1/8 of an inch, and then I turned that over 1/4 of an inch. So you've got a bit of a gap in between. Put it right on the edge there, and I'm going to do a row of stitching right on that edge. No, don't put a back stitch in, okay? I'm sort of getting it so that I'm sort of like lining it like that. As long as that's turned in under, it won't matter too much. You want to come just to the edge of your piece of, your very edge of your piece here, where you're that stitched in. Gather stitch. Now, I think that's better than putting it right down. I don't think you had hardly any ruffle there else. It's so difficult because you are working with such a small scale on it. That's better. Okay, just pulling to the side just a tiny bit. I don't know why it's doing that. There we go. So once you've done that, take it out. Don't put another piece on. Pull that out nice and long. Okay. I'm going to come in. I'm going to do exactly the same again, but this time we're going to go up a little bit higher. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to come just a little bit higher. So say 1/8 of an inch above. I'm going to do exactly the same again. Why didn't I put that behind? It's best to have your cottons behind and then they won't get all caught up in your needle. So just take it slow. If I was doing it on a child's one and I had a lot more space, I would, to get these gathers in, I would do it much quicker and whiz through it. But I want to keep this nice and even as I'm going along. So I'm just going to take my time at it. So that's that one. I'm going to do exactly the same on this one, so I'm just going to fold that in a little and then fold that down on that line. So I'm coming more like that rather than going right across the top. And I can measure that up on the sides with my other piece to see whether that's the same sort of height, and it is. So I'm just going to line that up. Oh, no, let's pull this out. I want to make sure you've got your long thread there. Okay. Can probably break that and then do it again. When you're doing your gathering stitch, you want a long thread, so you've got a long thread to gather with. Okay, just going to come in again with that. There we go. Put my needle in, come down here. I think that's a bit higher. Just clipping it in a tiny bit, that's better. It's more like it. There you go. So I would say when you're fold 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch rather than 3/4 of an inch. So do the 1/8 of the inch first and then do your 1/4 of an inch second, so that you've got it so that it's laying nicely, because you want that sort of all to sort of go. I think otherwise it's going to be, your ripples just aren't going to look right. Okay. And you know, sometimes I think making the doll's dress takes as long as making the child's dress, because it is very fiddly. So just dealing with a little bit smaller things, but it is worth it at the end. You do end up with something which is really beautiful. So just pull that out, leave yourself a long thread, snip that off. Pull yourself out and look, nice long thread there. We'll go on and we'll do the second row. I'm just checking I've got something. Oh no, that's something else completely. No, yeah, that's not a problem. Let's just come on and do that second row. So just above, about 1/8 of an inch above it. There we go. Okay. I'm sort of keeping my eye on where it is here on my foot and trying to make sure that that goes through at the same sort of distance all the time. And if your machine only does a fast stitch and doesn't do a slower stitch, you can just do 1 and then 2, and just until you get yourself your feeling that you're doing it right. Okay. Try not to cross over your stitches, because they won't gather through if you've got the crossover. It'd be much more difficult. If you'd rather just tack that up by hand and just run a tacking stitch, it is just as easy as well. Okay, so we're going to do the same again with our big long piece. Make sure it's the same side as the other one. We're coming in that 1/8 of an inch there, and then we're coming in there we go. So coming down the 1/8, and then we're going down in that 1/4 as well. There we go. So we're just going to come on. There you go. I don't know why I've done this like this, because I've got to cut this at 1/2 inch. I cut this halfway, and why have I done it at such a big long piece? Okay, so I'm going to cut it here in a minute. I'm just going to cut it. I need one big long piece and a shorter piece, and I'll make sure I show you that on the camera. So that bit which you've done beforehand, I'll just go back and add this piece on. You need one big long piece for the front and a shorter piece for the back. Okay. I'm not sure. Got a bit confused there, didn't I? And this one, all the way down to there. That's it. Okay, pull that piece out and do it again up the top. So try not to go over the stitches you've already done. I don't know why today I've not put my threads behind, but always put your threads behind so they don't get caught off. So this will be the one which is on the very bottom of your skirt, and this will go all the way around the front, this piece, and the other piece will go all the way around the back. So you'll have 3 pieces at the back and just 1 piece at the front, because you won't see the other pieces at the front because they will be underneath the apron. There we go, and leave a long piece there. Okay. And I'll do the same on this one, so I'm doing the 1/8 of an inch piece there. Get that turned under just that 1/8 of an inch, and then turn that up, sit that on, get that turned under. Okay, don't do a back stitch. And this shouldn't take as long as your dress did to gather those ruffles up. You should be able to gather those ruffles up quite quickly. That should be an easy enough thing to do. So you can sit and watch TV if you want to and gather them, or whatever you want to do. Remember that you're on this stitch, and once we finish doing this piece, we are going to make sure we turn it back to that ordinary stitch which we usually sew on, because if we don't do that we're going to end up sewing everything with a tacking stitch, and it won't hold when you're pulling it on and off the doll or whatever. It'll just pull out. Okay, all the way to the end. Okay, pull that out so you've got that long thread. And then come back and do it again on that top bit. Sorry, this is a bit of a boring bit, the ruffles. Not very interesting to watch, is it? So I'll just do this one video with just the ruffles on, and then I'll come during the other video where we're putting the dress together. Okay, so that's the ruffles done.